My name is Martin Cross. I'm 48 years old, and for 26 years, I've been an industrial maintenance technician at the same manufacturing plant on the edge of town. Same badge, same locker, same routine. I clocked in at 6 a.m. and clocked out whenever the job was done, sometimes at 7 p.m., sometimes at midnight. It didn't matter. The work needed doing, and I was the one who did it. I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you because it matters. Because everything I'm about to tell you started with one simple belief. If you work hard, stay loyal, and put your family first, everything will turn out okay. I was wrong. But I'm getting ahead of myself. 22 years ago, I met Diane Sullivan at a friend's backyard cookout. It was one of those late summer afternoons where the air smells like charcoal and cut grass, and everyone's got a beer in their hand and nowhere else to be. She was standing by the cooler, laughing at something her friend said, and when she looked up and caught me staring, she didn't look away. She smiled. That smile. God, that smile. It made me feel like I'd won something I didn't even know I was playing for. We started talking. She was easy to be around, confident but not showy, smart without making you feel small. She worked at a bank downtown, wore business clothes during the week, and had this way of making everything seem lighter, simpler, like life wasn't as complicated as I thought it was. We dated for a year. Nothing fancy. Dinners at chain restaurants, movies on Friday nights, drives out to the lake when the weather was good. I proposed on a Tuesday evening in her apartment. No ring yet, just the question. She said yes before I even finished asking. We got married a few months later. I was 26. She was 24. Small wedding, just family and a handful of friends. We honeymooned for a long weekend at a cabin 2 hours north. It was simple. It was enough. We both worked back then. I was at the plant, pulling in about $42,000 a year. She was at the bank, making maybe $30,000. We saved like our lives depended on it, because they did. Every dollar went toward one goal, a house. Our house. It took us 2 years, but we did it. A 3-bedroom ranch on a quiet street with a big backyard and a 2-car garage. The mortgage was $890 a month, and I remember signing those papers thinking, this is it. This is what it's all about. We dreamed together in that house, talked about kids, about vacations we'd take someday, about what we'd do when the mortgage was paid off. Diane wanted to stay home when we had children. She didn't want to miss anything. First steps, first words, school plays, all of it. I told her I'd make it work, and I did. Ethan was born when I was 30. 8 pounds, 6 ounces. Dark hair, my nose, Diane's eyes. Holding him for the first time felt like holding the entire future in my arms. I made a promise to him that night in the hospital. I will give you everything I didn't have. You'll never wonder if you're safe. You'll never doubt that someone's got your back. 2 years later, Lily arrived. Smaller, fiercer, with a set of lungs that could wake the whole neighborhood. Diane looked at me in the delivery room, exhausted and glowing, and said, "Our family's complete." She was right. It was. Diane quit her job a few months after Lily was born. "I want to be here for them," she said. "I don't want to miss a moment." I didn't question it. Why would I? She was their mother. She wanted to be present. That's what good mothers do, right? So I worked harder. I picked up overtime whenever it was offered. Weekend shifts, holiday shifts, double shifts when someone called in sick. I learned every machine in that plant, made myself indispensable, because indispensable employees get the hours. And I needed the hours. By the time the kids were in elementary school, I was pulling in $58,000 a year. By the time they hit middle school, it was $64,000. The mortgage got paid every month. The cars got maintained. The kids got new shoes when they needed them. Diane managed the household. Meals, laundry, schedules, everything. She was good at it. Better than I ever could have been. From the outside, we looked like we had it all figured out. Hell, from the inside, I thought we did too. The years blurred together in the best way. Ethan grew into a quiet, focused kid, Decent grades, no trouble, kept to himself mostly. Lily was sharper, more outspoken, the kind of kid who could argue her way out of anything. I was proud of both of them, proud of the life we'd built. The house got paid off 2 years ago, 20 years of mortgage payments, and finally, it was ours. Fully ours. I remember sitting at the kitchen table the day the final payment cleared, looking at Diane across from me and thinking, we did it. She smiled and said, "You did it, Martin. You worked so hard for this." I believed her. By that point, I'd been at the plant for 24 years. Same company, same job, same boots every morning. My knees ached. My back was stiff most days. I had scars on my hands from metal edges and burns from steam lines. But I had a paid-off house, $47,000 in savings, and $120,000 in my 401k. I had something to show for it all. The last 6 months were brutal. The plant had staffing shortages, guys retiring, guys quitting for better gigs, guys just not showing up anymore. Management leaned on the ones who stayed. That meant me. 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. I'd leave the house at 5:30 a.m. before anyone was awake. I'd come home at 7 p.m., sometimes later, and find dinner waiting for me in the microwave. Diane would be on the couch watching TV. Ethan would be in his room with the door closed. Lily would be out with friends or scrolling through her phone at the kitchen table. I told myself it was temporary. Just a few more months. Just until they hired more people. Then I could ease up, spend more time at home, maybe even take that vacation Diane kept mentioning. "We should go somewhere," she said one night, unprompted. "Somewhere warm. Just the two of us." I looked up from my plate. She was smiling at me, but there was something distant in her eyes. Something I couldn't quite place. "Sounds good," I answered. "Once things settle down at work." She nodded. "The kids and I are managing just fine." I didn't think twice about that sentence. Why would I? It was just a statement, a reassurance. She was telling me everything was okay, that I didn't need to worry, that they were handling things while I worked myself to the bone. I should have paid attention. I should have asked what managing just fine actually meant. But I didn't. I was too tired, too focused on the next shift, the next paycheck, the next step toward some vague future where everything would finally be easier. I thought I was building something, a foundation, a legacy, a life my kids could look back on and say, "My dad worked hard, my dad provided, my dad sacrificed everything so we could have more." I thought I was building our future. I didn't realize I was funding my own betrayal. It started small. So small I almost didn't notice. Diane seemed lighter, happier. She hummed while she cooked dinner. She wore makeup more often, even when she wasn't going anywhere. She'd laugh at something on her phone and quickly tilt the screen away when I walked past. At first I thought it was a good thing. Maybe she was finally adjusting to me being gone so much. Maybe she'd found some new hobby, joined some online group, reconnected with old friends. I didn't ask. I was too exhausted to ask. There were other things, too. Little things that didn't quite fit. One evening, I came home to find the living room furniture rearranged. The couch was against a different wall. The coffee table had been moved. The throw pillows were gone. "Why'd you move everything?" I asked, dropping my lunch bag by the door. Diane glanced up from her phone. "Wanted a change. You like it?" I shrugged. "Sure. Just different." She went back to her phone. Another night, I took the recycling out and noticed beer bottles in the bin. 4 of them. Cheap domestic stuff. I didn't drink beer. Diane didn't either. She was a wine person, always had been. "Did we have people over?" I asked her later. She was doing dishes, her back to me. "The beer bottles. In the recycling." "Oh. Lily had some friends over last weekend. They must have left them." "Lily's friends are drinking in our house?" I asked. "Martin, she's 16. They're not babies. I'm not going to police every little thing," she replied. I let it go. It made sense, I guess. Teenagers did stupid things. Diane was handling it. That was her job, raising the kids, managing the house. Mine was to earn the money that made it all possible. But then there was the cologne. I walked into the bathroom one morning before my shift and caught a scent I didn't recognize. Not mine. Not Old Spice or the cheap drugstore stuff I used. This was something else. Sharp, musky, the kind of smell that clings to fabric. "Where's this smell coming from?" I asked Diane at breakfast. She was pouring coffee. "What smell?" "In the bathroom. Cologne or something." "Oh, I got a sample at the store. Thought you might like it." "I didn't use it," I said. "I know, I did. Wanted to see how it smelled," she replied. I blinked. "You wore men's cologne?" She laughed, light and easy. "It's not that deep, Martin. It was just a sample." I nodded. Let it drop. But something in the back of my mind whispered that her explanation didn't make sense. Why would she wear men's cologne? Why would she even test it if she wasn't planning to buy it for me? I didn't pursue it. I should have. The kids were different too. Distant. Evasive. I came home one Tuesday evening, a rare early finish, only 8 hours instead of 12, and found Lily in the kitchen, laptop open in front of her. The second I walked in, she snapped it shut. "Hey, kiddo, what are you working on?" I asked. She didn't look at me, just shrugged. "Nothing. School stuff." "Can I see?" "It's not done yet." "That's okay, Dad, I said it's not done," she interrupted, her tone sharp. "Final." I raised my hands. "All right, just asking." She grabbed the laptop and left the kitchen without another word. Ethan was worse. He barely acknowledged me anymore. I'd knock on his door, and he'd grunt something that might have been, "Yeah." I'd ask how school was going, and he'd say, "Fine." I'd suggest we throw a football around on Sunday, and he'd say, "Busy." At 18, he was practically a man now. I told myself this was normal. Kids pulled away. They became their own people. This was how it was supposed to go, but it didn't feel right. One Saturday, I had a rare day off. A miracle. I suggested we all go out to dinner, just the four of us, like we used to when the kids were little. "I've got plans," Ethan said immediately. "Can you cancel them?" I asked. "It's been months since we did something as a family." "Can't." "Already committed," he replied. I looked at Lily. "What about you?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "I've got a project due Monday. Need to finish it." "On a Saturday night?" I questioned. She shrugged. "Yeah," Diane jumped in. "We can just go, Martin. You and me." So we did. Just the two of us at some Italian chain restaurant with red checkered tablecloths and breadsticks that tasted like cardboard. I tried to talk to her. Really talk. About us. About the kids. About how everything felt. Off. She kept checking her phone. "Everything okay?" I finally asked. She looked up, irritated. "Everything's fine, Martin. Why do you keep asking that?" "I don't know. You just seem distracted." "I'm not distracted. I'm here, aren't I?" she snapped. Technically, yes, but not really. Her body was across from me, but her mind was somewhere else. We ate in near silence. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and tried to shake the feeling crawling up my spine. The feeling that something was very, very wrong. I told myself I was being paranoid. The long hours were getting to me, the exhaustion, the stress. I was imagining problems because I was too tired to see things clearly. But then there was the truck. I'd noticed it before. A beat-up pickup, maybe 20 years old, primer gray with a dented tailgate. It parked down the street sometimes. I'd seen it 3, maybe 4 times over the past few weeks. Always in the same spot, just far enough away that I couldn't see the plates. One Tuesday, my shift ended an hour early, a machine breakdown. Management sent us home while they waited for the parts to arrive. I texted Diane, "Heading home early. Be there in 20. No response. I drove home, pulled into the driveway, and saw it again. The beat-up truck, parked 3 houses down. I sat in my car for a moment, engine idling, staring at it. Why was it there? Who owned it? Why did it keep showing up when I was supposed to be at work? I got out, walked to the front door, unlocked it, stepped inside. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "Diane?" I called out. No answer. I walked through the living room into the kitchen. Empty. I glanced out the back window. Her car was in the driveway. "Diane?" I called again. A sound upstairs. Faint. Movement. I walked to the bottom of the staircase. "You up there?" Still no answer. Then I heard it. A door closing. Softly. Deliberately. I climbed the stairs slowly, my heart thudding in my chest. When I reached the top, Diane appeared from our bedroom, wrapped in her robe, hair slightly messy. "Martin," she said, breathless, startled. I didn't hear you come in." "I texted you," I replied. "I was napping. I didn't see it." She was fully dressed under that robe. I could see her jeans, her shirt. Her hair wasn't messy from sleep. It was styled, fresh. "Were you sleeping in your clothes?" I asked. "I laid down after I got back from the store. I was tired," she answered. I glanced past her into the bedroom. The door was half open. The bed looked wrong. Not made, but not slept in either. "Whose truck is that outside?" I asked. She blinked. "What truck?" "The gray one, down the street." "I have no idea, Martin." "Why are you asking me?" she replied. I didn't answer. I just stood there, staring at her, trying to read her face, trying to find something, guilt, panic, anything. But she just stared back, calm and composed, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "You seem really stressed lately." "I'm fine." "You should rest. You're working too hard," she said. I nodded, turned, went back downstairs. But I wasn't fine. That night, I lay awake next to her, listening to her breathe, and I knew something was happening. I just didn't want to believe it. A few days later, I was at work, hands deep in a gearbox, when one of the older guys, Tom, leaned against the machine and said, "You ever wonder what your family does when you're not around?" I looked up. "What?" He shrugged. "Just a thought. You're here 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's a lot of time. A lot of opportunity." "Opportunity for what?" I asked. He smiled, sad, knowing. "Nothing, man. Forget I said anything." But I didn't forget. That comment stuck with me like a splinter under the skin. Small, painful, impossible to ignore. I told myself I was imagining things. I told myself the stress was making me paranoid. I told myself to stop looking for problems where there weren't any. I told myself I was wrong. I should have trusted my instincts, because the truth was worse than any suspicion. 3 months ago, Thursday afternoon, shift started at 6, like always. By noon, one of the main hydraulic presses seized up, oil everywhere, the whole line shut down. Management huddled in the office for 20 minutes, then came out and sent us home. "Nothing you can do until the parts get here," my supervisor said. "Come back tomorrow, regular time, 2 p.m. I was off at 2 p.m. I couldn't remember the last time I'd left work before dark. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for a minute, trying to decide what to do with this unexpected gift of time. Maybe surprise Diane. Maybe take her out somewhere. Maybe just sit on the couch and watch TV for once. I drove home. The whole way, I had this strange feeling in my gut. Not quite dread, not quite excitement. Just alertness. Like my body knew something my brain hadn't figured out yet. I pulled onto my street, and the first thing I saw was the truck, the beat-up gray pickup, parked in my driveway this time. Not down the street, not hidden. Right there in my driveway, like it belonged. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. I parked on the curb, got out, walked slowly toward my front door, my heart hammering in my chest so loud I could hear it in my ears. I unlocked the door, pushed it open, stepped inside. The house was silent, but not empty. I could feel someone else here. The air was different, charged. Then I heard it. Footsteps, fast, panicked, upstairs. A door opened, closed, opened again. I walked to the bottom of the staircase and looked up. And that's when I saw him. A man, mid-40s maybe, scruffy beard, flannel shirt half-buttoned, jeans, work boots. He stood at the top of the stairs, frozen, staring down at me. Our eyes met. For one long, terrible second, neither of us moved. Then he bolted. He shoved past me, nearly knocked me over, and ran out the front door. I heard his boots hitting the pavement, heard the truck door slam, heard the engine roar to life. He was gone in seconds. I stood there, my brain struggling to process what I'd just seen. A man. In my house. Running. "Martin?" Her voice. I turned. Diane stood at the top of the stairs in a silk robe I'd never seen before. Her hair was messy. Her face was flushed. Her eyes were wide. I can explain," she stammered. "Explain what?" My voice didn't sound like mine. It was flat, cold, empty. "Who was that?" I asked. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Martin, please, who was that?" "His name is Ryan. He's a friend," she said. "A friend." I walked past her, up the stairs toward our bedroom. The door was open. I stepped inside. The bed was unmade, sheets twisted, pillows on the floor, men's clothes on the chair, a flannel shirt, a belt, work boots by the nightstand. The smell hit me next. Sweat, cologne, him. The scent of another man soaked into my sheets, my pillows, my space. I stood there, staring at the bed I'd bought, the bed I'd slept in for 20 years, the bed where my wife had just... "Martin." I turned. Diane was in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself. "How long?" I asked. She didn't answer. "How long?" "6 months," she whispered. 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of another man in my house, in my bed, with my wife. 6 months while I worked 12-hour shifts, broke my back, sacrificed everything. "Do the kids know?" I asked. Silence. I asked again, slower this time. "Do the kids know?" She nodded. I felt something crack inside me. Not break, crack. Like ice on a frozen lake. The surface still held, but underneath everything was collapsing. "They didn't want to upset you," Diane said quietly. "They didn't want to upset me. My children, Ethan and Lily, the kids I'd worked myself to death for, knew their mother was cheating on me, and they said nothing. They chose her. They chose to hide it. They chose to protect her instead of me." I walked past Diane without a word, down the stairs into the living room. Ethan was on the couch, video game controller in his hands, eyes on the screen. "Did you know?" I asked. He didn't look at me, just shrugged. "Yeah." "Yeah," I repeated. "That's it? Just, yeah?" He paused the game. Finally looked at me. His expression was blank, not guilty, not sorry, just blank. "It's not my business," he said. "Not your business? I'm your father, and she's my mom." "I'm not picking sides," he replied. "She's cheating on me, Ethan. That's between you and her," he said, and unpaused the game and went back to playing. I turned and walked into the kitchen. Lily was sitting at the table, phone in her hand, earbuds in. I pulled one out. "You too?" I asked. She looked up, annoyed. "What?" "You knew, didn't you?" She sighed. "Yeah, I knew. And you didn't think to tell me?" "What was I supposed to say, Dad? Hey, Mom's seeing someone? You're never here. You wouldn't have cared," she replied. "I wouldn't have cared." My voice cracked. "You think I worked 12-hour shifts because I didn't care?" She rolled her eyes. "You work 12-hour shifts because that's all you know how to do. You don't know how to be home." She put her earbud back in and went back to scrolling. I stared at my daughter, my little girl, the one I'd carried on my shoulders, the one I'd taught to ride a bike, the one I'd worked myself to the bone for, and I saw a stranger. I turned and walked back to the stairs. Diane was standing in the hallway, arms crossed, watching me. "I want a divorce," I said. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, didn't apologize. She smiled, actually smiled. "Fine," she said. "Go ahead. Divorce me." "Fine. Yeah, fine." She stepped closer, her smile widening. "You know what happens then, Martin? I get half of everything. The house, the savings, your 401k, half of it's legally mine." "You cheated on me," I said. "Doesn't matter." Her voice was calm, confident. "No fault state. Cheating doesn't mean anything in court. I still get half. So go ahead. File. You'll lose everything anyway." She tilted her head, studying me like I was a problem she'd already solved. "You're stuck, Martin. You can leave if you want, but you'll leave with nothing." I looked at her. This woman I'd spent 22 years with, this woman I'd built a life with, this woman I'd trusted completely, and I realized I didn't know her at all. I looked at my kids one more time, waiting for one of them to say something, anything, to defend me, to show a shred of loyalty. Ethan kept playing his game. Lily kept scrolling her phone. Nobody moved. I turned, walked upstairs, packed a bag, just the essentials. Clothes, toiletries, my grandfather's watch. I walked out the front door, got in my truck, drove to a motel on the edge of town. Room 12, $45 a night, brown carpet, single bed, a TV that only got 3 channels. I sat on the edge of that bed for hours, staring at the wall, replaying every moment, every sign I'd missed. Around 3 a.m., something shifted. The grief was still there, the anger, the disbelief. But underneath it all, something else started to grow. Clarity. Diane thought she had me cornered. She thought I'd go through the courts, play by the rules, lose half of everything I'd earned. My kids thought I'd just accept it, move on. Keep working, keep paying, keep being the guy who showed up and kept his mouth shut. They all thought I was powerless. They were wrong. I wasn't going to play by their rules. I wasn't going to let them take what I'd built. They thought they had me trapped. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I didn't go home. I stayed at the motel, checked in for a week, then another, then another. Paid cash every time. The guy at the front desk stopped asking questions after the first few days. I still went to work. Same schedule, same shifts. I showed up, did the job, clocked out. To everyone there, I was the same Martin Cross I'd always been. Reliable, steady, broken in all the quiet ways middle-aged men break, but still functional. Diane called me a few times that first week. I answered, briefly, non-committally. "When are you coming home?" she asked on the 3rd day. "I need time to think," I replied. "About what?" "Everything." She sighed, annoyed. "Fine, take your time. But you're still paying the bills, right?" "Yeah." "Good," she said, and hung up. She wasn't worried. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd come crawling back, broken and compliant, ready to accept whatever scraps she was willing to give me. She thought I was defeated. That's what I wanted her to think. Because while she was celebrating, I was planning. Every detail, every step. First move, the 401k. I walked into HR on a Monday morning before my shift started. Janet, the benefits coordinator, looked up from her computer and smiled. "Martin, what can I do for you?" "I need to cash out my 401k early withdrawal," I said. Her smile faded. "You sure? The penalties are steep." "I know. You'll lose a chunk to taxes and fees. It's—" "I know," I said again. "Family emergency. I need the money." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "All right. I'll need you to fill out some paperwork." It took 30 minutes. Signatures, disclosures, confirmations. By the time I walked out of that office, the process was underway. $120,000 in the account. After penalties and taxes, it came out to $87,000. Still enough. They processed it within a week. The money hit my personal checking account 8 days later. Next, the joint savings, $47,000, sitting in an account with both our names on it. Diane never checked it. She never did. That was always my job. I handled the finances. She handled the house. I opened a new account at a different bank across town, a small credit union that didn't ask too many questions. Transferred every dollar from the joint savings into the new account. 1 click, 5 seconds. Done. Diane still had no idea. Then came the hard part. The house. The house was paid off, worth about $230,000. Both our names on the deed. Legally, I couldn't sell it without her signature, but I could list it. I drove to the county clerk's office, pulled the property records, and confirmed what I already knew. The deed was in both our names, but I was listed as the primary owner. That meant I could initiate the sale process. I called a real estate attorney, asked a hypothetical question. If a house is in both names but only one person lists it for sale, what happens? I asked. Depends, he said. If it's listed as for sale by owner, the listing itself doesn't require both signatures, but the sale does. Both parties have to sign off on the transfer of the deed. What if one party forges the other's signature? There was a long pause. That's illegal, fraud, felony level. Hypothetically, I said. Another pause. Hypothetically, if the signature was convincing enough and the title company didn't catch it, the sale could go through. But if it was discovered later, the buyer could sue. The forger could go to jail. What if it never got discovered? Then nobody would know, he answered. I thanked him and hung up. I listed the house for $185,000, way under market value, price to move. For sale by owner, cash offers only, quick close preferred. It sold in 10 days. A couple from 2 towns over, retired, looking for a cheap fixer-upper. They paid cash, wanted to close in 2 weeks. I met with the title company, brought the deed, signed my name, and then I signed Diane's. I'd been signing her name on checks, bills, and paperwork for 20 years. I knew every loop, every slant, every curve. I could forge her signature in my sleep. The title company glanced at it. Didn't question it. Why would they? Married couple selling their house. Happens every day. The sale closed on a Tuesday afternoon. $185,000 wired into my new account. Nobody called Diane. Nobody confirmed. Nobody checked. She had no idea her house had just been sold out from under her. While all this was happening, I kept up the act. I texted the kids every few days. 1-word responses. Fine. Busy. Later. I called Diane once a week. Let her talk. Let her complain about how hard things were without me there to do everything. Let her think I was weak, broken, lost. When are you coming back? She asked during one call. I don't know, I replied. You can't just stay in a motel forever, Martin. Why not? Because it's ridiculous. You're being dramatic, she snapped. I didn't respond. Fine, she said. Stay there, but don't expect me to wait forever. I won't, I replied. She hung up. She thought I was pathetic. She thought I was stalling. She had no idea I was systematically dismantling everything she thought she was entitled to. I sold my truck next, a 2015 Silverado, paid off, worth maybe $15,000, but I listed it for $12,000. Sold it in 3 days to a guy who paid cash and didn't ask questions. Then I sold my tools. Thousands of dollars worth of equipment I'd collected over 26 years. Socket sets, torque wrenches, diagnostic scanners, everything. Posted them on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Sold it all piece by piece. Another $3,000. I went through the house one more time when I knew Diane would be out. Took everything I could claim as mine, my laptop, my tablet, the TV from the basement, old camping gear, anything with value that wasn't explicitly family property. I sold it all. By the end of 3 weeks, I had $334,000 sitting in that new account. Next, I needed a new identity. Not a fake one, not illegal, just different. I drove to Nevada, rented a P.O. box in a town I'd never been to, used my middle name and a variation of my last name. Martin Cross became Mark Crossley, close enough to be believable, far enough to avoid detection. I opened a new bank account under that name using the P.O. box address, transferred all the money, $334,000, into it. Then I bought a van, 15 years old, high mileage, ugly as hell. But it ran, and it was $4,000 cash. No title in my real name. Registered under Mark Crossley using a P.O. box. I loaded the van with everything I needed. Clothes, camping gear, a cheap sleeping bag, some canned food, a burner phone, and my grandfather's watch. The only thing I took for sentimental reasons. On my last day at the plant, I walked into my supervisor's office and handed him an envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Resignation letter. Effective immediately," I said. He blinked. "You're quitting. Martin, you've been here 26 years. "Yeah, and now I'm done." "Why? What happened?" "Family situation," I replied. He stared at me, confused, maybe even hurt. I was the guy who never missed a shift, the guy who showed up no matter what, the guy who made his life easier. And now I was walking away. "We can work something out," he said. "If you need time off—" "I don't need time off. I need to be done," I interrupted. He nodded slowly. "All right. Good luck, Martin." I shook his hand and walked out. I destroyed my old phone in the motel parking lot, snapped it in half, threw it in a dumpster, cut up my credit cards, closed my old email accounts, deleted my social media. Every trace of Martin Cross was disappearing. One last thing. I drove to my street one final time, parked down the block, watched the house, the one I'd bought, paid for, maintained for 22 years. The lights were on. Diane's car was in the driveway. So was Ryan's truck. Bold now. No more hiding. Parked right there like he owned the place. I sat there for an hour, just watching, and I didn't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, no regret, just nothing. They thought I was broken. They thought I had no moves left. They were about to find out how wrong they were. I had one last thing to do before I vanished. I needed them to understand, truly understand, what they'd lost. I walked into my house one final time on a Thursday evening. I didn't knock. I still had my key. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and closed it quietly behind me. Diane was on the couch, watching some reality TV show. She glanced up when I walked in, surprised but not alarmed. "Martin, what are you—" she began. I walked past her without a word, straight to the kitchen table. I pulled my wedding ring off my finger and set it down on the wood surface. The sound, metal hitting wood, echoed in the silence. Diane stood up. "What are you doing?" she asked. I didn't answer. I looked around the house one last time. The walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished, the roof I'd replaced. Every corner of this place held some piece of me, my labor, my sacrifice, my belief that it all mattered. "Martin?" Her voice had an edge now. She could sense something. I turned and walked toward the front door. "Where are you going?" she demanded. Ethan's door opened upstairs. He appeared at the top of the stairs, finally noticing something was happening. "Dad?" he called. I stopped, turned, looked at him. 18 years old. My son. The boy I'd taught to throw a football, to change a tire, to be a man. And he'd chosen to betray me. "You made your choice," I said quietly. "Now live with it." "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. Diane moved toward me, her face shifting from confusion to alarm. "Martin, you're acting crazy." "You'll figure it out," I said, and I walked out. I drove through the night, didn't stop except for gas, crossed one state line, then another, then another. The burner phone stayed off. I was unreachable, untraceable. I had no destination, just away, far away. 2 days later, Diane received a certified letter. It was from a title company. She tore it open, confused. Sale of property at address. Dear Mrs. Cross, this letter serves as notification that the property located at the above address has been sold. The closing occurred on date, and the deed has been transferred to the new owners. Please vacate the premises within 30 days, as outlined in the sale agreement. She read it 3 times before it sank in. The house, her house, had been sold. She called the title company. There's been a mistake. I didn't sell my house. Ma'am, we have signatures from both you and your husband on file, the representative replied. I never signed anything. According to our records, you did. I'm telling you I didn't, she insisted. The woman on the other end sighed. If you believe there's been fraud, you'll need to contact an attorney. But the sale has been finalized. The new owners take possession in 30 days. Diane hung up. Her hands were shaking. She called Martin's number. Disconnected. She called his work. He quit 3 weeks ago, they told her. No forwarding information. She tried to log into their joint bank account. Empty. $47,000. Gone. She checked the savings. The 401k. Everything. Gone. All of it. Panic set in. She called her attorney, the one she'd consulted when she first decided to cheat, the one who'd assured her she'd get half of everything in a no-fault state. We have a problem, she said. My husband emptied all our accounts and sold the house without telling me. Did you sign the sale documents? The attorney asked. No. Then the sale is fraudulent. We can contest it. How long will that take? Months, maybe a year. And that's only if we can prove your signature was forged. Do you have access to your husband? No. He's gone. I don't know where, she answered. Then we can't serve him. We can't file for divorce without a defendant. Without him, there's no case. Diane's voice cracked. So what do I do? Find him. Until you do, you're stuck, the attorney replied. The house sold. Diane had to move out. She called her sister, begged for a place to stay. Her sister agreed, reluctantly. A small spare room in a cramped apartment across town. Diane had no income, no savings, no house, no husband. She applied for jobs, retail, fast food, anything. At 46, with a 15-year gap in her resume, nobody wanted her. She finally got hired at a department store, $12 an hour, part-time. Ryan, the man she'd been seeing, the one who'd made her feel alive again, disappeared the moment things got hard. Didn't return her calls, blocked her number. She was alone. Ethan graduated high school, moved out immediately, got a job at a factory 2 towns over. He barely spoke to Diane after that. He resented her for destroying their stability, even though he'd helped hide it. Lily, stuck living with her mother in her aunt's apartment, blamed Diane for everything. The car Martin had bought her, sold along with the house assets. The phone, canceled. It was on Martin's plan. Every comfort, every luxury, gone. She stopped talking to her mother entirely. 3 months after Martin left, Diane sat in the break room of her retail job, eating a peanut butter sandwich she'd packed from home because she couldn't afford to buy lunch. She thought about Martin constantly, where he was, how he'd done it, why she hadn't seen it coming. She texted his old number sometimes, even though she knew it was disconnected, just to type the words she could never bring herself to say in person. I'm sorry. Please come back. I didn't mean for this to happen. The texts never delivered. She sat there staring at her phone, realizing she'd destroyed the only person who'd ever truly cared about her. And now, he was gone. Forever. I left them with nothing but consequences. And I found something I hadn't felt in 20 years. Freedom. I live in a small town in Montana now, population 1,200. The kind of place where people nod when you pass them on the street but don't ask too many questions. Where everyone knows everyone but nobody knows everything. I rent a cabin on the outskirts. 1 bedroom, wood stove, a front porch with a view of the mountains. Rent's $600 a month. The landlord's an old guy who doesn't care what my story is as long as the check clears, and it always does. I work odd jobs, handyman stuff mostly. Someone needs a fence fixed, I fix it. A barn roof needs patching, I patch it. During harvest season, I help out on the farms. Everything's cash, no taxes, no paperwork, no Mark Crossley on any official records. I wake up with the sunrise, work till early afternoon, spend evenings hiking, fishing, reading books from the town library. I don't own a TV, don't have social media, don't even have a smartphone, just the burner I bought 3 months ago. My life costs almost nothing. The $330,000 sits in that Nevada account, untouched. I don't need it. I don't even think about it most days. I've changed. Physically, mentally, everything. I'm leaner now, stronger. My hands have calluses from different work. Farm work, outdoor work, real work instead of factory maintenance. I'm calmer. I don't carry the weight of 26 years of resentment and exhaustion anymore. I don't wake up dreading the day ahead. I sleep well, better than I have in decades. And I don't miss them. Not Diane, who taught me that loyalty means nothing to some people. Not Ethan, who showed me that blood doesn't guarantee character. Not Lily, who demonstrated that children can be just as selfish as adults. I think about them sometimes. Clinically. Like looking back at a past mistake and analyzing what went wrong. I wonder if Diane found another job, if Ethan turned out okay, if Lily learned anything. But I don't feel anything when I wonder. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just nothing. They're strangers now. People I used to know in another life. I've made a few friends here. Joe owns the hardware store in town, hires me sometimes to deliver supplies to job sites. Sarah runs the library, recommends books, and never asks about my past. Tom's a retired vet who taught me to fly fish. We go out to the river most weekends, stand knee-deep in cold water, and don't talk much. They know me as Mark, a quiet guy who left a bad situation back east, started over. They respect my privacy. That's enough. I sit on my cabin porch most evenings, coffee in hand, watching the mountains turn purple in the fading light. I think about the Martin Cross I used to be, the man who believed that sacrifice would be rewarded. That loyalty mattered. That family meant something. That man is dead. He died the day he walked into his bedroom and saw another man's clothes on the floor. Mark Crossley is who's left. And for the first time in decades, I'm free. Free from the expectations. Free from the betrayal. Free from the people who took everything and gave nothing back. I don't regret leaving. I regret not leaving sooner.